Well, a very, very, very happy Thursday and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is May 7th of 2026. I hope everyone is having themselves a good day. I know I have been having myself a good day. I got to find a way to have myself a good day. There's just, you know, we could sit here and get frustrated about these Cincinnati Reds and how they're playing and the fact they can't win a game on the road here in the past week. And trust me when I say this, it's frustrating. I'm annoyed. I feel like, I'm giving up hope. I'm losing hope on this team. And I'm trying to do everything that I can to remind myself that this Reds team is going through just a bad moment in the season. This isn't permanent. This isn't temporary. They're not the worst team in baseball. And the results though indicate that they're not playing good. And I just got to find a way. If you're a Reds fan out there, you have the right to be upset. Realistically, everything and anything for the Reds is going just not our way. But let's look at some of the positives real quick. We're above 500. We have 20 wins to the season. Nick Lodolo is expected to come back tomorrow night when we come back home to face the Astros. There is positives to come after this. Remind ourselves that this, whatever's happening, for whatever reason, it's all temporary. It's a temporary fix. Well, let's give you our update of the day. Back on Tuesday, Emilio Pagan went down, clenching his left hamstring, the leg that he plants on the ground. He clenches it, and for a moment, heart stopped for Cincinnati Reds fans. We're thinking the absolute worst. Well, an injury update reported late afternoon yesterday that Amelia Pagan has received a grade 2 hamstring strain, expected to be out 4 to 8 weeks, placed on the 15-day IL. And I kind of take a moment and just let me kind of soak it in. Understand that Emilio Pagan is not out for the season. Okay. Now, I don't know what classifies for grade A to grade one, two, three, four, five, whatever the configurations are designed, but this could be a lot worse. And so I appreciate that Emilia Pagan, this is all what it is. And I hope that he has a speedy recovery. I hope that he comes back healthy and he does play a key part of this bullpen. He not is not just a closer. This is why we're paying him $10 million a year. It's because he guides this bullpen through everyone that you're going to see. He is leading this bullpen to success. The way he carries himself and the way he approaches himself in the work ethics, the way that he presents himself in the locker room, the way that he mentors a lot of these younger talented relief pitchers. He is someone that you want in the bullpen every day of the week because he has wisdom and he has information that players could provide and be useful towards. And so yesterday on our show, we kind of presented the idea of who could replace him in the hindsight. Now, I don't necessarily think that Terry Francona needs to address one particular person as your closer. He didn't do it with Emilio Pagan, although there was indication that he was going to fulfill that role mostly throughout the year. So there's no sense of urgency of saying Tony Santion or Graham Ashcraft or Connor Phillips is going to be our designated closer and pitch in these critical situations first and foremost. Terry Francona's mindset heading into the bullpen is more directed towards the understanding that he can't overwork his bullpen. He has to be able to balance it out. And other guys in that bullpen is going to have to fill in to some tough, critical situations and to be able to work out of jams. So you realistically want guys like Tony, guys like Graham Ashcraft, guys like Sam Ball, guys like Brock Burke to be able to feel comfortable in the bottom or the top of the ninth inning, up by 1 run, up by 2 runs, and saying, we believe in you that you could close out the game. Now, I think it's safe to say that we want to feel comfortable and confident that we can rely on 1, 2, possibly 3 pitchers to be put into that situation that can get the job done. And so yesterday we threw out guys like Emilio Pagan. We threw out guys like, well, not Pagan, Tony Santion, Graham Ashcraft, and Connor Phillips as guys who we noticed that are performing well this far out of the Reds bullpen, who kind of fit if we have to trust or believe in them heading into the ninth inning, they will fit the job. And so, this is something that's not going to work overnight. You're asking a guy to come in that's not typically in these positions night in on night out, and you're asking them to fill in. Last night, we'll get down to it. Grant Mashcraft didn't have a good night, blew a save. Do we give up on him? Do we move forward? Do we spread out the workload and say, Santion, you're going to be the guy? We're going to give you a try next later on. Or is it going to be Connor Phillips or Sam Ball, but the reality is that there's not one particular person to fit in this role. We are just going to have to see. We don't necessarily have a backup, but we have multiple people who could be a backup. So it's scary, but as Pagan could be back in 2 to 3 weeks, or he could be back by the end of July. Something that we will have to pay attention to. But Cincinnati Reds fell short yet again to the Chicago Cubs. 7-6 final score was done in extra innings. Second game in a row where they went back to back innings. Second game in a row where they were leading the game. So I understand the record states and indicates that the Reds are they've lost 5 in a row. Okay. And no, they're not playing their best baseball. Yes, we pinpointed it earlier this week that the Reds have struggled in their bullpen. It doesn't help when your ace closer gets taken out of the game. It only adds fire to the field, or fuel to the fire, however you want to, perceive that. Brady Singer went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 walk allowed, 6 strikeouts. That's something that we are expecting to see out of our starting rotation. Our guys offensively putting up 6 runs. Sure, 4 of those came in the ninth inning, but this entire series has been very close. Matter of fact, let's take you back to Monday. Okay. Cincinnati led the Cubs 4-3 in the ninth inning on Monday. It was a walk-off home run that in the game in the ninth inning. The Reds came into this game on Tuesday, tied, and then ended up losing in extra innings. So Monday was a walk-off home run by pitch hitter Michael Conforto. Then it was a walk-off single by Dansby Swanson. And last night, the Reds came into the ninth inning, lead the bottom of the ninth inning 6-4. Graham Ashcraft gives up a home run by Pete Crow Armstrong that sends the game into extra innings, and it was a walk-off walk that cost us the game. And so the bigger picture is that we are competing in the ball games through the ninth inning. Okay, we are, a matter of fact, leading these games through the entire game. We're not completing these games. Our bullpen isn't completing these games. So understand that. So understand that although the record doesn't clarify that we're playing good baseball, and there's a reason why you could be frustrated, and I completely understand and validate the reasons behind it. But understand that we're playing good baseball in between, from the start to at least the seventh, eighth inning. We can't complete a game. All those 1-run, 2-run games we have been successful at this far this season, thinking that we've taken the turn, they are all coming to a head. Now, whether or not this is something that continues with the organization, only time will tell. I'd like to believe that the Cubs are just a better team. Then this is something that if we want to be a better team, we would have to fix. And, this happens to whenever we face a good team. Let's remember that so far this past month, in the month of April, we have been really good. We haven't played any really tough teams that really can complete all 9 innings. So it's either we are on this downhill spiral going back to 2025 where we completely failed at 1-run games, 2-1 games. We failed in the bullpen, which has been a notorious conversation in years past, or we just struggle to complete games. We could do it against not so good teams, but when it comes down to facing the elite teams, the teams that are expected to win division, teams that are expected to win the World Series or contend for the World Series, our true colors show, and it shows that we're not so good in our bullpen, that factor. That is still yet to be seen, because coming up until this series, coming up until the Chicago Cubs, I don't think we really faced a terrific team. We didn't face the Dodgers. We didn't face the Yankees. The Red Sox aren't in first place, and even the Detroit Tigers are fighting and struggling to maintain a 500 record. We have been able to conquer most of our games because we've been able to play better teams. We are all, honestly, I really truly believe this. I may be wrong, but I believe this series is really showing us where we sit on the totem pole when it comes down to being a contending team. So we may have enough in the bag. We may have enough in the bag to carry us out to September, but unless we find improvement in the areas that we struggle at the most, we may not be able to last throughout the month of September. So far, we've lost a series to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So far, we've lost a series to the Detroit Tigers. So far, we lost 2 series to the Pirates, by the way. Okay? And then we're getting eaten alive by a Chicago Cubs team that, yeah, they're playing really good baseball. They are what? 13 and won 14 consecutive home games. I don't remember exactly where I put that information note at. It was probably on the post this morning. They won 14 consecutive home games, sweeping the Phillies, beating the Mets, sweeping the Diamondbacks, and now they're taking it out. And that's what happens with good teams. They're on a hot streak. The month of April, we've been on a hot streak. The Pirates have been on a cold streak. We have these fluctuations. I think this is just a tough time throughout the season that we really just want to forget about it, move on, go back home to Great American Ballpark tomorrow, where we host the Houston Astros. They're not playing so well either. They're in the bottom of the division, and they're able to, we can maybe come back to some sorts of happiness with this Reds organization. I'm going to remind people patience is key out of this. They have a getaway day today. We'll get more into that here in a moment. With Emilio Pagan, yesterday, a lot of things took place. A lot of movements have been made. I want to kind of go over that. So Emilio Pagan was placed on the 15-day IL with a grade 2 hamstring strain. He's expected to be out for 1 to 2 months, and the timetable is really unclear. It's the expectation, but he could be out for, honestly, 2 weeks, make a return. He could be out for 3 months. We really don't know. It kind of sucks because he is a value to our bullpen. But we also saw Chase Petty, who got optioned down to Louisville. And that is the indication, which it's good news. So let's look at some good news because we're expected to have Nick Lodolo return and make his start tomorrow night against Houston at Great American Ballpark. So Chase Petty came up on Monday, did his good deed, had a really good outing. Unfortunately, we didn't have the results to back that up. Now he goes back down to the minor leagues, making ways for Nick Lodolo, who's expected to get a start tomorrow, which I'm excited to see. I'm excited for as well. TJ Antone was also called up in yesterday's to replace Emilio Pagan, right-handed pitcher. Pierce Johnson was reactivated from the bereavement list, and Brandon Williamson has been moved from the 15-day IL to a 60-day IL, which, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a little scary. It's all due to a shoulder fatigueness. And this is going to be a conversation I'm probably going to put together and have with you guys a little bit later, probably next week, matter of fact. But we were forced to be put in a position where we had to rely a lot of talent coming from what was expected to start out at AAA. The two guys, Rhett Lauder, Brandon Williamson, both coming off of injuries, both just kind of getting back into the swing of things this spring, were expected or anticipated to start the season off in AAA as they build in case someone got hurt. Well, that came quicker than we thought they were. So are the Reds situation, what's at fault for when it comes to Brandon Williamson now being moved to a 60-day IL? I think it's the situation that he had to face. If we went back and if we knew what we know now, if we went back to March 26th, would you still have relied on Brandon Williamson to be on the opening day roster? Or would you have maybe pushed, or would you have maybe suggested that we went with a guy like Chase Petty or Julian Aguirre or Andrew Chafin, who didn't have no rhyme or reason for this Reds organization, but he signed a minor league contract for AAA. Playing a lot of what ifs here, right? We did sign right-handed pitcher, is it Natalie Familia, to a minor league contract. Don't know who he is, to be honest. I'll have to do some more homework on him. But that has been our injury report update, the transactions that's transpired over the last 24 hours. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Got to find a way. I still am optimistic because I want to find a way that where we can at least take one out of the last 7 games. Can't give up, but can't fail. I don't care if we're above 500 or not. We have to find a way to win. Let's take a look at the National League Central here. Okay. The Brewers beat the Cardinals 6-2 yesterday. Remember, they didn't play on Tuesday due to weather complications. That makeup day is in July. And so Milwaukee was able to pull away with the victory. I believe it's 1-1 now in the series. I don't know what their schedule is tomorrow. We'll have to get there when we get there. The Pirates shut out the Arizona Diamondbacks 1-0. Paul Skeens only allowed 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, and no walks in his 8 innings performance win last night. Brandon Lowe hit a solo home run in the 9th inning, and that was all for Soto to come in and save the ball game. I want us to remind ourselves we did play some really good baseball in April. I don't think that's done yet. I think we're going to have more. A lot of people have already counting out. Look, the Reds have played the best baseball they could. They are going to be in last place. They're going to finish off the season in last place. They are not going to look up since then. I refuse to believe it. I think you should refuse to believe that as well. I think you should remain optimistic about this Reds team. We just hit a little stump in the road. Guess what? Pittsburgh hit a stump in the road. Every team does it. And it sucks because we get to watch the Chicago Cubs play some really good baseball. It's even more griping to watch when we got to go to Wrigley and just endure it. There's nothing we can do. Pirates are playing really good baseball. The Cardinals are also surprisingly good. But there's nothing we can do. Nothing. Today, we see 2 afternoon games, one at 3:40 where the Pirates take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Pirates are 20-17 as they send out Mitch Keller on the mound. The Diamondbacks will send out Zach Gallen to try to get them back to 500 baseball. They are 17-18. Today, the final game of the series, the game that we are still hopeful for, okay? Still want the Reds to win. Still want the Reds to at least take 1 out of 4. They, like I said, they have been competitive this series. They have even taken the lead heading into the final innings, and that's when things crumble down and fail. Other than the 17-7 blowout back on Saturday, this entire road trip has been very successful with offensive performances. Our starting pitching didn't do great against Pittsburgh, but they're doing phenomenal. And you would think that would be a little bit different considering that the weather has changed in Chicago. It's frigid cold. The wind moves all around. And yet it feels like a playoff game. Everybody in the 7th inning are up on their feet in crucial at-bats. They're standing tall. And I think that's it's something different. And if we could take anything back, let's take some of the energy that the Chicago Cubs fans have. Let's bring that back home and let's support this Reds team heading into this final 4 games before our next day off. And it's one of those situations where things ain't working our way, right? We're just not getting the best of luck. And we're kind of focused on May 11th. You know why? Because May 11th is a day off. May 11th is the day that we can honestly say, this last stretch, we're over with. But no, we got 4 more days. We have a whole nother series to go through. And we can't ponder over May 11th, next Monday. We have to find a way to get that done today. Find a way to turn things around. We've won 2 games thus far in this stretch, 2 of them being back at Great American Ballpark against the Rockies. Let's find a way to come back, take the series this weekend, win today, even take a sweep. I'd be satisfied. It shows us our grind to still playing. Let me not believe that we've lost hope. Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds begin first pitch at 2:20 this afternoon. It's available on Reds TV or listen to it on WOW 700. The Reds are 20-17, and they will be sending out right-handed pitcher Rhett Lauder on the mound. Rhett Lauder is 3-2. He has a 5.09 ERA. Lauder is the last pitch on May the 2nd, which was on Saturday. He didn't get out of 2 innings, only pitched an inning and a third against Pittsburgh. He gave up 5 hits, 8 runs, 4 walks, and 1 strikeout. Would love nothing more but for him to turn things around in this outing and at least pitch and have a good outing today. That's what every pitcher would like to do, especially coming off of a terrible outing like he did earlier this weekend. The Chicago Cubs, 25-12, left-handed pitcher will be on the mound. Shota Amanaga. Excuse me. 3-2 on the record with a 2.4 ERA. Amanaga was pitched back on Saturday against Arizona. He went 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. That is your tell of the take. I'm not going to get into lineup. You guys can get into that. You guys can visit CincinnatiReds.com or MLB.com to get all more detailed information like the lineup and whatnot. The first 6 weeks of Major League Baseball has been chaotic. I saw an article on MLB.com that has inspired me for this upcoming segment. And so a similar title to this article, we are going to be talking about and ranking each division and how the chaotic division has impacted every team in Major League Baseball. And it's fun. It's fun when teams are playing good, when competition is high, things that you don't expect. So this morning, I was kind of going through my own list. I was looking at the standings. I was looking at teams what they've gone through thus far this season, and I ranked each. I kind of gave a 1 out of 10 score to each division based off of the stories and what's going on with each team inside that division. And so I'm kind of, this is not a biased opinion. I do want to share with you what I came up with. I'm going to work backwards. Instead of starting off number 1, I'm going to start off with number 6. Number 6 for me comes from the American League Central team. I ranked them 5 out of 10, and not really too much hype I would give this division. As a matter of fact, the headline waves are what's not happening in this division. I expected a lot more coming from the Detroit Tigers. You went out of your way this offseason. You picked up, this is coming into Tariq Schoolball's contract year. You got Framber Valdez. You got Justin Verlander. I expect him to run away with this division. But the AL Central, to me, sits here, and they're struggling to play 500 baseball. First place in the AL Central as of May the 7th is the Cleveland Guardians. They're 19-19. Even our Cincinnati Reds, who are in last place of the NL Central, come in at 7-20-17 along with the Pirates. They have the best record. Wasn't this a similar state a month ago? It's honestly disappointing, and it's kind of hard to give support to a division that you want to give support to. You finally think that the division is going to turn around. Something exciting is going to come from the AL Central. They're going to break through and be a dangerous division. Matter of fact, Chicago 17-20 sits above Kansas City and Minnesota. I'm very disappointed in the outcome, although it has this intriguing moments like Chicago sits in third place. They're a game and a half out, a month and 6 weeks into the season. You kind of a little bit surprised, to be honest. Detroit, though, 2 games under 500, a game out of the AL Central, and look at what they've done. The expectations were high, and they're failing to live up to that. That's why they're number 6. The American League West comes in at number 5 for me. I give them a 6.5 out of 10. And why? Well, Seattle ain't living up to the expectation. Seattle, this was another team who had World Series conversations. Now, look, listen, this is where we're at the moment. I understand we have a lot of baseball left to be played, but I'm not impressed by the American League West and what they put out on the field. There's only two things that I take away impressive coming into the American League West. One is how good Jose Soriano is playing and is pitching right now for the Angels. But they're 15 and 23, and a team can't win a division based off of one player who pitches every 5 days, by the way. The Athletics is the other thing that shows impressiveness. 18 and 18, they, they're playing 500 baseball, which is typical for the Athletics, but every other buddy, they're in first place, and everyone else is kind of struggling. The American League West reminds me a lot right now of the American League Central. Not so good. The Houston Astros, I really didn't want to believe in this ending of an era. I thought it was an era for the Astros running and dominating the AL West. Last year took me by surprise when they didn't make it to the playoffs. This year, the Astros are just, I don't know what it is. They're 15 and 23. They're 3 games out of the division. It doesn't seem that far, but they're 8 games back of 500. If you're playing as good as the Angels and they're not playing good, then what do you have going on for them? And we just learned, I think Carlos Correa is out for the season because of an ankle injury. No, not good news. Coming in at number 4 is the National League West team. I gave them a 7 out of 10. They're ranked higher, and I think that it's a fun division. But the reason is because I'm not impressed. There's nothing new to the chaotic experience I'm seeing out of the NL West division. The Dodgers, the Padres are up there like they expected to be. The Arizona Diamondbacks is kind of in the middle, but then the Giants and the Rockies are below. And I'm not so surprised about the Rockies. I'm not surprised about the Diamondbacks. I was actually hopeful for the Giants, who were projected to be higher up this year than in other people's predictions. But it would have been a better story. They would have been higher on this list if Tony Vitello, this manager getting his crack at the major leagues coming from college, was actually able to put some good product out there on the field. Now they get ready to host the Pirates, come to Oracle Park this weekend. They just got done dropping the series to the Padres. The Padres are 23 and 14, same record as the Giants and the Rockies if the numbers are reversed. Quickly, what we're discovering in the NL West is that the division is going to be separated between your contenders and your non-contenders. And I think you're going to have that clear understanding by the middle of June, to say. The Padres, the Dodgers, maybe the Diamondbacks hold on a little bit longer, but they're going to separate themselves very quickly from the rest of the team in the NL West. And a race, a competition that we already expect, we already analyze it. We already know that that's what's going to happen. So what's really surprising? The Dodgers looking for a three-peat, and the Padres are looking to hang on in a hopeful possibility as a new era of Padres baseball is yet among us. That's where they come in at number 4. At number 3, I place the National League East division. The Atlanta Braves seem to kind of re-embed their success. And maybe they've had some help with the failures of the other teams in the division. The Phillies, who have a good team on paper, aren't looking so good in the 17 and 20 record. They're 8.5 games back. And yet we've had to see this year Rob Thompson get replaced. The New York Mets continue their woes from the end of last season, 14 and 22, one of the worst records in baseball, already 11 games back. And as we get deeper into the season, you talk about that separation. It makes it hard to come back again, to catch up to the Braves. There's nothing really good. I know we recognize the Nationals early on in the month of April. That was just to me, there's certain teams out there that get out to a good lead, and that's it. And that's all we have heading into the National League East. The Braves are in it, and they look, if you give them another month or two, unless things quickly turn around or the Phillies can maintain themselves under the Don Manning interim as manager, then we're honestly looking at another division that's separating themselves from the rest of we'll have one, maybe two up there. The rest is already eliminated out of the equation. But the Braves, they're showing us that, hey, the last couple years they haven't been so good. Okay, nothing new. They're figuring things out, and they look like they have full control over their team again. The American League East is the next division here on this list that I place at number two with the chaoticness. First, I think it comes with, out of everything in this division, it has to be the fact that the Red Sox got rid of their entire coaching staff. I think that was more mind-boggling. It's one thing to get rid of a manager. It's one thing to get rid of a first base coach or a pitching coach, but to get rid of your entire coaching staff at the major league level, whoa, that blew my socks off. That's something I'm going to remember back heading into this offseason. Okay. So they find themselves in last place. Toronto Blue Jays, they have a lot to prove, but it all came down to things just hit. When they hit hard at the beginning of the year with injuries, and they're trying to bounce back from that. They don't have Bo Bichette, and so this team is taking on a new image, and right now they're not really responding well to it. They're 9 games back of the division, tied with the Red Sox in last place. They are 4-6, and they're on a 4-game losing streak. But what about those Yankees? 25-12. Yeah, they only got a half a game advantage above the Rays right now. But you look at one of the best teams in the American League, and the New York is wanting to reclaim their throne. And the way that they're playing baseball, 7-3. Let's remind you that the Rays are 9-1 over the last 10. They're on a 6-game winning streak. They have some competition in there, but it looks like the Yankees are right there in the mix. And it's hopefully nothing kind of just spews out. So then that leaves my number one of chaotic, ranking my chaotic divisions. That's the NL Central. Like I said, this is not a biased opinion. I think there's a lot of moving pieces in this division. A lot has transpired. They're still the only team that I've seen with every team in the division above 500. To me, as we get deeper into this season, that becomes more of a rare sight to see. The Cincinnati Reds, although they are 2-8 over the last 10 games, they've lost 6 in a row. They are 20-17. They're tied with the Pirates at the bottom, and both teams got out to a sporadic start. Now, when Milwaukee said, "Hey, we're going to be up there, right there with them," well, they've kind of mellowed out. They're up and down. They took on a tough series against St. Louis this week. They've been struggling. I'll tell you that. St. Louis, a team expected to be at the bottom of the division, a team that has a lot of young guys, have this new mindset, new process in getting work done. You would expect them to take a year, maybe take 2 years to come away with that. And yet they're showing themselves 21-15. They're 3.5, keeping up with the Cubs. I mean, this is very competitive. Look at the Cubs. The Cubs are showing us right now why they are such a good team. They are showing us why they belong at the top of the division. And to be honest, this could be a resurgence of the Cubs dynasty. Maybe I'm prematurely saying dynasty, but my point is that this is there's throughout this month alone, throughout the month of April, throughout the week in March, throughout what we've seen so far in May, this past 6 weeks have been crazy for the National League Central. I think that they're the most chaotic division. It doesn't make sense to me, probably doesn't make sense to anybody else. And yet, this is the results that we see. So 40 minutes ago, we've talked about this downhill that the Reds are still holding on, but hold your head up high. 20 wins to 17, best record uh, still above 500 in last place, which they're the only team that can say that. And you have the best record, then all right, look at this. Think about this. You have the Cincinnati Reds have a better record than the Athletics and the Guardians, who are in first place of their division. That doesn't say something, then I don't know what does. That is my ranking each chaotic division. I want to know where you guys rank the chaotic divisions here. Who do you guys think is division is more chaotic than the other? Let me know down in the comments. All right, Major League Baseball had a kind of one of those rare historical moments yesterday during the White Sox and Angels game. The Angels beat the White Sox 8-2, but in throughout the course of the game, there was three situations where bases were loaded and a run was scored because the batter was hit by the pitcher. Two of them came from Los Angeles. One of them came from the White Sox. And this is a rare sight to see. Bases loaded, you hit the batter, therefore that's how you win the game. As a matter of fact, we were watching the Cubs and Reds game the other day, and the game concluded because you had the bases loaded and you walked the batter, which is never a fun thing to do, right? And they had two outs, so they were either one pitch away of either getting out of it or losing it. So they lost. Well, it's been about 70 seasons since we've seen three batters who were hit by pitches with bases loaded in a single game. In yesterday's ball game between the White Sox and the Angels, two of them came by the Angels. One in the fourth inning, where the White Sox pitcher Osvaldo Bido was hit by the Angels, was hit Angels batter Jorge Soler while bases were loaded. And then following that exact pitch, Beto hit Joe Adell. So the Angels was able to score in two runs by two pitches back to back. That was hit the batter. The Angels returned the favor in the seventh inning as Drew Pomeranz hit Sam Antonasi. That's his name, I believe. And the White Sox had the bases loaded and they scored. This is only the 12th hit by pitch in MLB history with bases loaded. Angels' first time to be hit by pitch by multiple pitches with bases loaded since May 11th. Well, this was the first time that multiple pitchers were hit by pitches with bases loaded in the same game since May 11th, 2024, where the Brewers had that record according to the St. Louis Cardinals. It's never fun or easy to get hit by a pitch. They come in hot, they come in on fire. I definitely don't like, you see all these injuries that come of it, but it happens. It's rare when it comes with bases loaded, and it's rare with bases loaded and it comes with multiple times in the game. Just like the Reds last Saturday walked 7 consecutive batters. Didn't hit anybody or hit back-to-back hit by pitches to score in Pirates runners, but still something to be notable. Thought that was a fun, rare fact for everyone to see. Alrighty, let's give you a NBA playoff update here. Yesterday, the New York Knicks beat the Philadelphia 76ers 108-102. Final score, Knicks go out to an early 2-0 lead in the series. The San Antonio Spurs make a comeback, beating the Minnesota Timberwolves 133-95. They have now tied the series at 1 apiece. We get to today's action as NBA playoffs continue on Amazon. 2 games will both be played on Amazon Prime. So if you go looking to where you can find the game at, well, if you don't have Amazon, good luck. At 7 o'clock, the tip-off begins between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Detroit Pistons at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Detroit leads the series 1-0. And then at 9:30, the Lakers take on the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The Thunders lead the series 1-0. That is your NBA playoff update. Alrighty. Developing news as we continue to learn more about the relationship that TKO has and has been implementing in the WWE. This comes off of watching how do I want to put this? This comes off of watching a handful of spring releases. That's typical by the WWE over the years. They have them in spring, they have them in fall. It's tradition. Developing news came out this week as we learned over the weekend that members of the New Day, members of MFT was released. Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, JC Materio, and Tonga Loa. Well, reports developed even further, learning that it was requested that WWE asked Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods to take pay cuts. They rejected, which resulted in their release. Well, TKO is being held responsible to a lot of the changes that we are now seeing in the WWE, the way that they want things to be written, people who they want to see at the major label, kind of similar to what we wanted to see out of Saudi Arabia, right? They get what they want. Anyways, so TKO holds their employment contracts for more so as a merit base. And so if you already know what a merit based contract is, then this is not for you. But I kind of want to briefly explain what a merit based contract is because we may be seeing that in the WWE, which may turn some athletes away or may invite them to give out better performances. Well, a merit based contract is based off of your performance. So think about baseball. Okay, it's kind of like a bonus. Right? You're scheduled to get X dollar amount for the duration of a season. So, for example, Ellie De La Cruz. All right, we're going to pay you $5 million to play for the Reds in 2026. Well, an incentive to good performances. For example, hey, if you play in 150 plus games this year, I'm going to throw an extra $1 million your way. You steal 30 bases this year, then I'm going to throw an extra $2 million your way. So it gives incentives to athletes to perform well, to want to be out there on the field. Maybe something that NBA contracts could start inheriting to get their players to play a little bit more. But think about doing that for the WWE, and think about if you're Roman Reigns, I'm going to give you $5 million to perform this year for the WWE from January 1st to December 31st. You're going to get $5 million, but all right, I'm going to give you an incentive, a bonus. If you can wrestle 40 matches this year, whether it's PLE, whether it's a live event, whether it's a regular show, have 40 matches, and I'll give you an extra $2 million. Win yourself the World Heavyweight Championship, I'll give you $3 million. There are incentive bonuses. There are goals and accomplishments set upon a company to give their talent the opportunity to excel in their performance. But what does that do? Because WWE doesn't operate as a baseball organization or as a basketball organization, right? This is more creative as concept. This is more of what WWE and what the creative team has visioned for you as a character, you as a person, for your future. Let's be honest with each other. You can't tell me that TKO doesn't have any position inside that creative room. So think about this. Roman Reigns gets paid $5 million. It's August, and he's already had, let's say, 35 matches, and he will get a bonus at 40. Well, TKO could come in saying, I don't want to give Roman that bonus. So creative team, write him off script and prevent him from having those 40 matches. This is a company that is controlling what is a prefix to a storyline that if everything works out, that they should get. It's one thing if throughout those 40 matches, Roman Reigns gets hurt and is not medically cleared at match 32. But WWE has the ability to write athletes in and write them out. And it's frustrating. You may be able to get that way with UFC. But UFC is not as confined, scripted. And I hate using the word scripted, but I have to in this scenario. So I want people to understand it because I hope that TKO doesn't progress down this way. But TKO's contract negotiations is structured based off of it's formatted based off of awards and what you can accomplish that year. And if you put any of that onto into the WWE, then you're giving all the control to the TKO, and you're really not you how are you going to influence me when we know by now it is structured. So I want people just to understand that heading into then our next moves in the WWE, because that's one thing that we could be facing, which would change the configuration of WWE and the talent and who wants to come over. In our last segment, I'm going to kind of adjust a little bit here to make sure I get this segment done and out in time for everybody. So on on CBS Sports, an article came written out by Brian Diodro, was written yesterday, and it was about reasons and optimism for every team to believe that that they could turn the corner and have belief. So I want to focus, like we always do, the AFC North. Maybe I could come back tomorrow and move towards the rest of the league. So we start off in Baltimore, and their statement is more help for Lamar Jackson. After acquiring free agent pass rusher Trey Hendrickson, use of the draft to enhance the situation surrounding Jackson, who hasn't always been flanked by the best support cast, Baltimore hit a home run by drafting Ioane, who was the first guard selected in the draft. The Ravens then used three of their next four picks on pass catchers who could be able to make an immediate impact in 2026. Is Elijah Sarrett, the second without that Baltimore selected in the draft, led the entire FBS in 15 touchdowns and reception. One thing that obviously points out in this to me, okay, the article is titled One Reason for Optimism for Every Team Draft in the NFL Draft. So the Ravens go out and get Trey Hendrickson. The Ravens go into the draft and they picked up a guard to help. Um, they picked up Ioane to help as a guard to protect Lamar Jackson. But their focus is trying to find a young receiver who could pair nicely with Lamar, and that may be in the receiver of Elijah Sarrett. And maybe he may be undermined among maybe a 3 or 4 slot receiver in this scenario. So I'm going to talk about this. Let's get your reactions. We could bring this up tomorrow. The Cincinnati Bengals, defensive help for Burrow, obviously. Burrow has been everything the Bengals desired as a number one overall pick, which is a rare to see. When was the last time we really saw the it factor in Cincinnati? Okay, after two AFC titles, a Super Bowl presence, and two division titles. After an two AFC title games, two division titles, and a Super Bowl appearance, we got to focus on how he could come back. And defense is one of the biggest greats. Now, I think we really hit the nail on the coffin by trading Dexter Lawrence. We haven't seen nothing from him this season yet, but if we could point back to say if we would have won based off of what's been shown on paper, Dexter Lawrence was the pivotal mark. Nothing to say against Jonathan Allen or Boya Mafe or even Brian Cook. They're going to make attributes. But the Bengals have really improvised and focused on their success at the defensive position, which could give us an ounce of confidence heading into this season with what we already have. For the Cleveland Browns, a revamp of their offense. Cleveland head coach Todd Monken, if I say that right, who came to the Browns after 2 years of work with Lamar Jackson, now tries to have similar success with Deshaun Watson and Shador Sanders. I like Shador Sanders over more, but that's a conversation for a later date. The Browns helped that cause by acquiring projecting starting offensive linemen in free agency before selecting former Utah standout offensive tackle Spencer Fano. Okay. He was the 19th overall pick. Browns then draft two projected starting receivers in Denzel Boston and Casey Compricore. The underrated facade of Cleveland was drafted was the selection of the former Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the second round, who was projected by some of the possible first round picks. McNeil Warren will join a defense led by reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett. So we look into this. Todd Monken gets to now go try to redefine either Deshaun Watson or Shador Sanders. In addition, we add a couple of tackles, Fano to be precise, and then a couple of receivers in Boston and Conceprecon, however you say his last name. Apologize if I butcher it. In attempt to boost their offense and their playability. And so Monken has a lot of work to be put out for him. But I think there's a little bit of something to be happy for if you are the Cleveland Browns in the offensive skill level at the moment. Let's move over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last but not least, vastly improve offense, regardless of the statue of Aaron Rodgers' position. If he returns or not, they needed to improve offense. The starting with acquisition and whiteout Michael Pittman Jr., which is a great addition. And even if you're a young quarterback, he'd be something to work with here. Also trade with the Colts for rookie Jeremy Bernard. The Steelers also beefed up their backfield with Rico Dowdle, who ran for 1,000 yards in each of the last 2 years. Pittsburgh also added what you should think is the best line of the year after missing out on Makai Lemon. They pivoted to draft Max, a frisky, athletic offensive tackle who did not allow a single sack during his final season at Arizona State. New head coach Mike McCarthy will start the Steelers' tenure with two promising quarterbacks, Will Howard and Drew Allard. So, regardless of the decision for Aaron Rodgers, I think that it works great. I think Pim is a great receiver to have one of these Howard or Allard to really work with and make available. You can bring a lot of skill to that. Um, I still impose, man. It's tough because on one hand, I say Rogers needs to just let's go retire. Steelers need to move on from him, regardless of what Rogers need to do or wants to do. But yet again, you know, is Pittman enough? Does Jermaine Bernard and Rico Dowdle enough to help? Because the dynamic is, unless you have a good offense that can protect you, great, you got Max, definitely a big impact. But unless you have all that to protect you, then you're going to either be running the ball a lot or you're going to be very secure about the decisions you make putting Rodgers in the backfield. So we will make the adjustment. I will review, maybe share some extra highlights for all that tomorrow. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll come back, wrap up the week. We'll get you guys ready for SmackDown. We'll give you our predictions for WWE Backlash. We'll get you guys ready for the weekend series against the Astros. Remember, the Reds wrap up a 4-game series against the Cubs today at 2:20. Available on Reds TV or WOW 700. And man, we're going to get you guys for the weekend. Bearcats baseball and much more. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Please have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. A brief announcement. We are posting MLB Road to the Show series. We got 2 already in progress, ready to be posted today. one today, one coming up on Saturday for you. So look out for those. Important to have those notifications on. You could also follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, download us and take us on the road with you wherever you go. We're all available on any audio platform. But until tomorrow, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you guys for tuning into the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin, and you guys take care. So long.